How many people here have turned pins before?
Not old enough yet.
Not old enough? Okay.
Shots fired.
Well, first thing with the pin is you need to decide on the type of kit you want to turn. If you go to a Penn State catalog, there are hundreds and hundreds. And what your first choice for me to decide on is if you want a single barrel or a double barrel pin. Single barrels are like the pins where it has just a single piece like this, and you put that on the lathe and turn it, and you match that to the bushings, and the bushings determine the size of the pin you're turning. Once you've got the kind of pin picked out that you want to turn, then
So that's single barrel. What's double barrel?
a double barrel pin is like a slimline or a European style. Once I start turning, I'll pass these around and you can see them. There's this double right there.
Oh, two-piece or one piece?
Two piece or one piece. And there are a couple that are three piece, but they're not as popular anymore. That coming around, that's the first pin I ever turned. It's hard to believe, but I still have it. And it does not come out of that bag. If you touch it, then you got to make me a new one. And so once you decide on the kit you want to turn, the next thing you want to do is you want to decide on the type of material that you're going to use. You might want to go with wood. You might want to go with an acrylic, and you can buy either one most places. And the other part is both. It's acrylic and wood. And kind of just as a fourth, if you've ever seen packing material, if any of you work in a paper mill or someplace where they put the packing material between rolls or boxes of paper, I take that and I stabilize it, and then I pour the acrylic in between it, and it makes a really cool pen blank. Unfortunately, I didn't have any that were made up and ready to go. This one here is just a play on insanity. If you look in there, Ed, what's in that one? Actually, the whole peanut. You have to take the peanut and soak it in a hardener, like a wood hardener that you can get from Minwax, or like Ed, he hardens wood in a device with the vacuum.
I don't use that. Yeah.
Cactus juice. You can harden it, the peanuts, with that, and it fills the voids, and then you put that in the resin, and it actually turns pretty cool. It's an amazing thing to come up with. And there's a gentleman, his name is Zach Higgins. He's experimented with everything. He's used macaroni noodles. He's used Legos. You name it. If it's a piece, he puts it into the acrylic, lets it harden, and then he turns it. And you come up with some pretty cool designs. So once you've got your wood selected, you got your pen kit selected, then you want to take and you need to drill holes, or I'm sorry, you need to cut your blank to length. And you take one of your pieces of your pen and you compare it up to the same size of your blank. And here's one that blew apart. You compare the pen tube to the piece that you're going to be using to turn with, and then you drill a hole that matches the diameter of the pen tube. You insert your tube into the wood that you've drilled a hole into, and then you glue it in. And you come up with something similar to that. Once you've got them cut, drilled, and glued, then you're ready to place the pen on bushings. And where is it? Okay, there it is. Pass that around. The bushings come in so many different varieties of, they match the size of the pin tube, and depending, some pin tubes are different size diameters on one end than they are on the back side. So once you get all of that set up, you put your pin bushings in the end of the tubes in the pin blank, and then you insert that. New lathes, hard to get used to. And you take your bushings and you put them on the pin mandrel. Put this on, put this one on, and this one that I'm going to be demonstrating with right now, this is a European style pin. It's unique because it has a floating bushing on the bushing itself to get two different diameters on the pin that you're making.
So the bushings generally define the OD of the pen blank.
Right.
You're turning down to the bushing.
Right. The diameter of the bushing, it's determining the diameter of the pin. You want to turn down to that.
If you notice on the pin, right, it has this middle piece,
Beauty ring.
beauty ring,
Yep.
and the top part has a outside diameter that matches the beauty ring, but the bottom of the pin has a different diameter. So there'd be two different bushings.
And it one's,
When you order your kit, it will tell you what size bushings you need.
yep. And you need to pay attention to that because sometimes you get in a hurry, you order a bunch of pin kits and you just like get it and you're ready to turn it and you don't have the bushings. But I'm lucky, I've got probably 600 sets of bushings. Oh yeah. And one of the things you got to remember, because you're turning, your tool hits the bushing, the diameter of the bushing changes. And you need to replace them periodically with new ones because they are pretty soft. Even though they're made out of steel, they're not hardened. Yep, so they disappear kind of quick. So that's, once you get everything cut to length, drilled, your pin tubes in, get mounted to your bushings on the lathe. And one of the things, I use a new Woodpecker's mandrel. It's solid or stainless steel. It's got bushings built into the end, and it matches. It's got a 7mm tube in it, and it's really hardened steel. The old ones, like this one here, the rods that are in them, everybody's used them. I mean, they've been around forever, but the rods, if you hit something or get a catch, they bend. And once it's bent, then you got to order. You can't get from most of the pin places, you can't get an individual piece of rod. So you end up having to buy a whole new mandrel. Unless you know Al Osterman, he deals with steel all the time. He'll tell you where you can go and get the steel in Green Bay.
Tell you where to go.
Oh, yeah. So if you ever bend one, don't buy a whole new mandrel. Just go to the place over there by Toys for Trucks on the west side. What's that place called, Al? Anyway, they sell steel rod in every kind of different size you ever want. Yep, you can buy one or three or whatever. So, and then you can replace it. Just cut it to length. And with the tailstock piece that's coming around, it's got a hole in the middle of it, and you slide that over the mandrel, the rod, and then you tighten it up on your pin blanks, and it holds it in place. On the old ones, a lot of guys, because of where the threads are, it's got a dimple in the end of the rod, and you've used a 60-degree live center on tailstock, and you'd bring that up to it. and then it's got threads on there, and you tighten that up against your piece. Well, a lot of times that'll bend too. It's because you put too much pressure on it. Maybe. Okay. But, well, now you can't get a replacement rod, sorry. So, all right, once you get everything cut, trimmed, matched up on to your bushings, then you're ready to turn. Normally, I would be turning this from the square piece that went around, but I cheated at home this week a little bit, and I turned them down to where they almost need to be, because I want to focus more on my finishing than the pin turning itself. But it's all right. New lathe, got to figure this out. When you turn a pin, you want to turn as fast RPM as you can. You get a better cut and a better finish. This one's turning at 1800 RPM, so I didn't think to check and turn it up, but I could, but this will be good enough. A lot of guys nowadays, a lot of turners, they are using carbide. I'm a little bit old school. A good friend of mine, Kelly Bresnahan, said you're not a wood turner if you don't use high-speed steel. He said if you use carbide, you're cheating. With a roughing gouge, you want to bring it up, address the piece that you're getting ready to turn, then bring up the handle till it starts to cut, and then slowly you want to go across like this. You drop something. Should have brought a trash can. I am. I couldn't find it. All right. That was for Kelly Bresnahan. Now I'm going to cheat. Whenever you carry your tools in a bag, it's a good idea to tape up the cutters or the cutting edge of a regular high-speed tool. That way they don't get nicked up and stuff. This is an Easy Wood tool. This is the original, the bigger handle tool. And this is a curved cutter on the end, not a straight cutter. If you use a straight cutter when you're cutting aluminite, it will catch. And so with the curved edge, you're going to get a better cut. This pen kit that I'm using, or the actual blank that I'm using, is one that I made myself at home. And it's not a round, it's not a straight, it's got the compound curve to it, arced. Where you at, Jerry? This one? There's no screen here to see where I'm at. It's not, it's radiused. It's really mild, but when it's a square, well, it has a corner, but it's not, it is easy wood cutter, yep. But anyway, like I was saying, I because I made this blank, and it's made from a wasp nest like you find around your garage or a shed or something in your yard, and you take and you put Minwax wood hardener on it, let it set for a couple of days, then set it out, let it dry really good, and then you take it and you pour your acrylic in it. But unfortunately, with the wasp nest, is it up? It chips really quick. And I forgot something. I was going to bring my UV resin, and I didn't bring it today. So anyway, don't throw one away when it chips out like that. Keep it. Take the UV resin like I have at home, and yeah, it'll fill the hole. Yep, you just hit it with the UV light. And one of the things, like Ed and I originally bought, I did, is you buy the resin from Alumilite. The problem with the Alumilite resin is it's medium hard. If you go to Timu, they have it, and it comes in a hard finish. And once you apply the UV light to it, I mean, it's hard stuff. It's almost as...
Look like a patch then, because it's clear, whereas the rest of the body isn't clear?
That's
Judgment call when you get there.
That's why they make dye. I mix a little bit of dye with mine.
Or some of the shavings off of what you're turning.
Yep.
Is that only good for acrylic or it'll work on wood also?
It'll work on wood as well.
I like it for when I make a ring. The Illuminate one is, so if you painted the Illuminate resin on there and hit it with UV, it is a little softer and you have to be careful. But when you make a ring, you coat it on the ring and hit it with the light, it gives a smooth texture to the ring and you take it off. And it's more of a finish than a patch to me. Depending on the size of the chip out, I use CA.
And how many pins have you made? Tens of thousands?
Probably 5,000. Several years ago, when I was driving for Speedy Delivery, I used to run all over the Midwestern part of Wisconsin, all the way down almost Milwaukee, and everything over to Plover and everything in between. And just by chance, one day I was at one of my customers and getting him to sign my paperwork, and he didn't have a pen, so you know me, here, use mine. And he's like, where'd you get that? I got to have one. And I said, well, I make them. So he's like, I'm looking for something different to give to the guys that work here. And he had about 20 guys that worked in his building. And he said, every year we give them cheese and they don't eat it. They give it to somebody or throw it away. So, you know, Wisconsin. So I made a pen and pencil set, and I forget what I charged him, but it wasn't a lot, barely made anything on it. And and the guys loved it, you know, and most of them ended up giving that to their wives. Women love pens, you know, and for people that use checkbooks, it's no brainer. So anyway, he was signing some stuff at his desk one day, and one of his customers came in, and he said, where'd you get that pen? And it bloomed. It started from there. And I was going along, and I'd make 50 to 100 pens at a time for customers, pen and pencil sets. And I had an agreement with Paper Box, small quantity box down in Appleton, and they make these small pen boxes like you can buy at Uline. And I was buying those, putting them in there, and they would give them to the people. So that went really good. And then somebody else saw it, and the guy wanted 2,000 pens. And I'm like, when do you want this by? And this was in October. He said, I need them by Christmas. And I'm like, there ain't no way. I have a full-time job. I can't make that many pens. Well, I made them. I slept like 2 hours a night for 3 months. Oh, my wife and son and a friend of mine helped me do those, and it was nuts. So anyway, now that I broke the blank on the other one, the problem with using the wasp nest is it's papery, and it will blow up a lot of times when you're using it. So thankfully I brought a backup. I've got a pin here. This is made from willow. All right, what did I do wrong here? Okay. Try this again. This one's roughed down to almost the right size already. And where I was talking about where this is a two-piece bushing, the outer edge of it is for the outer edge of the first step of the pin, and it's already turned to that. So I need to bring this other end right here down to the diameter of the bushing. And when you get to where you got to be, you'll hear it hit the bushing. And right there, and you'll see, it's too fine, but you get a little buildup of the bushing on the edge of the cutter. That's why they get smaller and smaller and smaller over time. So once you get that, I've got that in completed. The higher the speed, the better the cut. All right, what did we do wrong? It is. Okay. That's up. That's on. I hit that. It ain't doing nothing. Now it is. There we go. Every time you use a new lathe, you don't know what you're doing. Is 1800 fast as it goes? Does anybody here remember Tom Hughes? I used to turn pins on my Powermatic, and he used to say, "That's such a waste of a big lathe." So then I bought a jet lathe to turn just pins on. He said, all that big lathe for turning massive bowls and you're turning pins. If you ever got to watch him turn at his house, he turned bowls wide open. Scary. And once again, right here, I'm just bringing this down to where it just kisses the bushing with the tool. And the other point is, when you're turning pins, if you read the instructions, it says to go straight across, from bushing to bushing. All right, the carbide cuts really good and it leaves a nice finish on the pin. But if you run a skew chisel, you get a better finish. I don't know why, but it does really good. But once you get your yeah, it's cutting, yeah. And once you learn the right angle and, to address the wood with a skew, you don't have to sand. It really does do a good job. But with this, no. You're going to have to show me that one. All right, I go through the grits. I start off with 220. Then I go to 320. With the 220 and 320, I just turn it while it's in the spinning motion. And then when I get to 400,
And you got it on high speed, right?
yep, I sand at high speed. And then go to the 400 and just real light touch, go back and forth. And that's got it in a pretty good. And then, so you don't get your sanding marks showing up. Shush. You sand with the grain. You're knocking out the rings. Maple. Maple. If you can get a hard maple, 99% of the time it does a nice finish on the pin. So here, once I get this done, some people disagree, but for me, with pin turning, blue towels are the only way to go. And now you want to burnish the wood.
So 400 and then paper towel.
Too many things to remember on this one. Sir?
400 grit, then paper towel.
Well, with the paper towel, all I'm doing is removing the sanding dust. I have a product. It's really expensive. It's called denatured alcohol, and I didn't bring it today. Then once you get the sanding dust off, clean the sanding dust. The reason I use denatured alcohol is because it flashes off so fast. In the amount of time that it took me to turn around and drop the paper towel, this would have been dry already. And then I don't have to worry about it. Now, for applying my CA finish, I like to bring my speed down to roughly about 1,000. That way, you don't get as many rings. Now, if you watch guys on YouTube, they'll tell you to take these and to cut them into strips. Well, who has time to cut everything into strips? Here I'm using thin CA. The first drop that I put on here, and it's just a drop, I put on here and go across the first barrel of the wood, put another drop, and go back and forth across. You want to let that set for 5 or 10 seconds. Now, depending on the wood, this here is weeping willow. It's really close grain, believe it or not, for a softwood. I can go right in there again, and if you notice, almost right away you start to get a shine. Let that set for a minute. Has it been a minute yet? Some people, if you ask Mr. Connard over there, he lets his set overnight. He gives it a good chance to get hard. I don't have time for that. When I'm turning a bunch of pins, I'm usually filling this thing up with pin blanks. And once it's on the tube, they're on here. I have another one that's twice as big as this one when I used to get the big orders. So you go through and you get all your pins turned. And then once you start doing well, there's the difference between me and Al is I finish stuff. This is not made for regular CA. It's Glue Boost product, but it actually works. And in a pinch, when I left my accelerator at home, And now that's really, really nice and smooth. But it's not smooth enough.
It might be for some.
That's it. I'm going home. Ain't no biggie. It's not a demonstration unless something goes wrong. Yeah, that's the one that I blew up on here. I'll get that in a minute. Now, the reason I brought my own water is because it's just tap water, and then it has 2 drops of dish soap in it. The dish soap acts as a lubrication when you're sanding the CA. All right. Oh, I need some more paper towel. This is not my lathe. I have a piece of plywood that fits in here nice and perfect when I'm doing this at my lathe. But since it's the clubs, you have water. And then for sanding whatever project you're working on, once you've turned it, you want to use just regular 200 to 400 grit sandpaper. Once you get to this stage, now that I'm into the CA finish on the pin, I order packs. It's like this thick, and it goes from 400 grit up to 2500 grit. And I just take these and I lay them out in order. This is a wet sandpaper specifically for, and the pieces that I have here, it goes up in sequence. It goes 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1500, 2000, and 2500. The paper towel is to dry it. And you don't, with the 600 grit, if you were closer, you could hear it. When you first start, it's got a rough, scratchy sound to it. And just after that many wipes, it changes. So you go in with your paper towel and get the moisture off. People say that whenever you're sanding, getting old, you leave a grit on. There, I got some gravel. That should do a good job. Between the grits, it leaves some on the. I don't think there's that much to worry about. And just work your way through, and it doesn't take any pressure. All it takes is just a light touch, and all I'm doing is I'm removing that CA finish. I'm getting the ridges knocked down so that the blank looks clean. Never have. Well, the object is not to put a lot of pressure on it when you're turning it like this and sanding. You know, you're not coming up under there and adding 10 pounds of pressure. I'm just taking the weight of my finger and letting it turn. And I can see from the reflection in the light, each time I go to a different grit, it starts to shine a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. The only drawback is when it's like this, it's wet and it looks really good. Now that I dried it off, it looks really bad. So once you get that done, do you remember that stuff that Lynn made for the finish in that one thing? I made the same thing, and mine, this here is made with pumice, I think is what it's called. Once you apply the pumice, then you get a really good shine. This was the piece of paper towel I got wet. I'm going to turn it to a piece of clean dry. Turn up the speed. And one of the things that a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen, don't do is, one is don't add pressure. If you get CA glue hot, it will melt and you'll get ripples and ridges in your finish. So with a light touch, I'm coming in here just enough to work that pumice into the finish. As you can see, it comes off onto the paper towel. Turn the paper towel over, and you want to work it in, and then come in with one of your fingers and feel it. All the ridges are gone. It's nice and smooth. But now I go one step further. There used to be a guy on Facebook. He made these finishes. He's no longer there, so I can't get it anymore. Once this is gone, this is 75,000 grit. How do you measure it that fine? I don't think you can. You can't feel it. But the thing you can do, once you put it on there, is you can see it. And it makes that pen like glass. One of the complaints my wife has with some of my pens is she's like, my fingers keep sliding off the end. Why do you do that? Looks nice.
So is that a wax and an abrasive?
An abrasive, yeah, but it's, I don't know where you'd find something that fine. That's just the way he labels it, and it is really fine stuff. Huh? But you can feel the grit in that.
So your only acrylic is that one drop, or that CA, 2 drops, right? 2 drops thick.
I went through it 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 times. All right, you want to pass those around? Huh? I'll give you rough. All right, and that, here, send this around too, Cleet. What is that wood that when you turn it, it smells so good? Camphor. This is camphor, and when I first turned this, the shine on that was like glass. I went out the next day after work, and the shine was gone. The oils from the camphor must leach out into that. I've never had a pen do that before. It's like, well, boy, there went my demonstration for a shiny pen. Yes. Yep, it will leach through. The Cocobolo, they say to take denatured alcohol and rub it to drive that oil back, but it will come back. All right, and I need that tube right there, Cleet. I've done a couple different ways with the boiled linseed oil and denatured alcohol mixed together and try and raise it. But right now, most of the woods that I'm using, they're dry, so I don't have that problem. All right. This is a single barrel pin. Here, again, bushing. It matches the tube. And that's the one thing. This kit called for a specific bushing, and I went through every one that I had last night. Couldn't find it, but I've got so many bushings. This is a 30 caliber round, and it called for these bushings. Well, what do you know? They fit. So if you don't have one and you forgot to order it, but you have some, look through them and see if they work. A lot of times they do. You'll find one.
And also, you find one, even if the bushing's a little bit smaller, just don't cut all the way down to the bushing.
Right. Or it don't look so good. All right. This is a Great Gatsby kit. Single barrel, but they're nice looking pins. The Gatsby and Sierras, they're single barrel, all similar to this. They make really good gifts. People for Christmas, birthdays, especially graduations, pen and pencil sets, they're perfect for that. You know, everybody buys somebody at graduation. I know when I graduated, my brother bought me a pen and pencil set. So, am I going too long? You know it's bad when the people are looking at their pens and you got people yawning and uh-oh. All right. So, here on the Gatsby, that's on, that's on, that's on. Thank you. You must have one of these.
I just watch you do it enough times.
All right. This is for Ed. Where'd he go? Skews, they take some time, especially a thin skew like this. You need to really get used to it. And I'm trying to go fast on the constricts of time here. So how'd that other pen feel? Soft? That's what my wife calls it. Anything that's sanded smooth, it's soft. All right, when you get down to pretty close to the bushing, I cheat. I take my parting tool, and this is a wider parting tool. And here, I'm going to find my bushing. When you get, and you're in a rhythm and you're turning a ton of pins, say you want to have 50 or 100 pins done in a week, take right on the last 16th or so of an inch of the pin blank and bring it down to where it meets the bushing. Then you're done with that. Then you can bring your roughing gouge, if that's what you're using. The bad part about acrylic is these stupid ribbons. You can't see nothing, and they get in the way and they get on everything in your shop. If you got a fan going, good luck trying to find them and clean them. And like I started to say before, you don't have to turn the pin bushing to bushing to have that straight look to it. Pins look better if they have a little shape to them. That's my opinion. And here I'm just doing quick little cuts to match up the pin bushing or pin blank with where I already turned it down. It's just a time saver. And a couple of cross passes. And right there, even using the roughing gouge, that's pretty smooth. So if I wanted to, I could leave it right there, but I'm going to jump in with 400 grit just to touch it up to the bushing. Now, with acrylic, some people will tell you that all you need to do is jump right into a polish. 3, 2, where's number 1? There it is. So I'm going to skip the CA at this point. Come on, baby. Come on. Stuff dries up in the tip, and it's impossible to get it to let go. This is magic juice. You can get this from Turner's Warehouse, and I think you can still get it from Zach Hagen's. I can't think of his website right now. But let the paste do the work. Because of the grits in there, you want to keep going until it's dry. You need to get it off of the paper towel. If it's still showing up like that, and that, then you're not done yet. So when you go to your next grit, you're going to pretty much be defeating the purpose. And this is magic number 2. Okay. And then 5. Cleat, why are you knocking my stuff off? I got it. I got it. Okay, you got it. Beside my lathe at the house, I got a tray that everything sits in, doesn't roll off. Okay. Number 4. Honestly, between 4, 5, and 6, you can't feel a difference. But somehow, the lanolin that's in number 6 is good enough to really make it shine. See there? part of that's coming off the bushing too. So, and then where'd you hide the other one, Cleet? Is there anybody in here that's a Broncos fan? What? A Broncos? Now, can you tell a difference in the feel or the shine on that one? See a difference? You think it's better on the CA or this? Really? Where'd that one with the CA finish go to? Somebody took it. It is.
It looks like you can see the really fine rings on it.
You can. Okay.
But it's not good.
It's good enough for most people. The only thing different that the CA will do with that is it will fill that in and, you know, change up the texture of it a little bit. But for most people, could you see a difference, Kelly? Mine too. It's gotten to the point now, I'm like, if I can't see any rings, it's good enough for me. And I'm sorry, say that again?
2,000 pens when you did the 2,000 pen order.
I did every one of them in CA finish. It was so much work. I would get up before work. I had to be at work at 7:30 at Speedy Delivery. I'd be out in my shop at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, turning. What? Oh. And you do that every day, and then on the weekends, I was turning usually about 7:30, 8 o'clock Saturday morning until 10 o'clock Saturday night. And I would take Sunday off, and my wife kept saying, "You're not going to make it. You're not." I said, "He'll get what he gets at this point," because I had gotten like 800 done, and I was done. I mean, I didn't ever want to see another pin. And after that order, I didn't do pins for about 3 years. I couldn't stand them, but they're so easy to do. And everybody does pins, they'll tell you it's instant gratification. What do you mean, no? You take that and look at it. I want your professional opinion there, Ed. Ed, he didn't want to look at it. And the other thing is, when you do a hybrid pen that's acrylic and wood, the one turns quicker than the other, and you have to have that's where a skew chisel comes in. It's going straight across. If you're turning with a roughing gouge, because it's round, a lot of times it'll go in on the acrylic, come back up if it's a hardwood, and then back down. And the nice thing about a CA finish, you can fill that in. Any other questions?
What about the dust and things like that? Do you worry about breathing the dust?
I wear a mask at home. The one thing with the acrylic, these ribbons, they get on everything. And I didn't button this up, I should have. it gets in your clothing, especially a knit shirt, and it's impossible. Even with, trying to blow it off, it's hard to get it off your shirt, or even sometimes with your jeans. Jeans are a little bit better. That's the nice thing about wearing a smock. The material on these, nothing gets into it or penetrates it. Works really good. But when I'm at home, I think I've worn this 3 times. I go into my shop, I start turning, if I'm turning a bowl or turning pins, and then when I'm halfway done, I'm like, oh yeah, smock. So it should last me a long time.